sir. A Brown is here. A Brown Advice. Another day, another advice. All right. So, well, before I start, it's been like a few days as far as breaking my consistency, but I'm still here, still got the topics, still got a lot to say, as far as giving everybody the best advice, the Brown advice, the one and only advice, Austin Brown. So, but yesterday I ran in the rain. I was drenched. I was supposed to do a video yesterday, but my phone was wet, my headphones was wet, everything was wet. I actually made a video of me running. Actually put it on TikTok. So, but aside from that, definitely still here just to give everybody the best advice and being able to just talk and put your listening ears on and just go ahead and synchronize information and absorb the information that I'm about to tell you, right? So basically the key topic that we're going to talk about today is as far as dealing with sports and relationships, right? So when it comes to sports and relationships, right, a lot of people can't really cope with having a girlfriend or a boyfriend and then dealing with sports because there's certain levels to where people where there's like certain levels to where people really take their sport seriously yet are still in a relationship, right? So there's nothing wrong to be in a relationship and do sports at the same time. It's just that it can be a little stressful at times, depending on who you are, how good you are, and how much they depend on you with this whatever sport that you do, right? So like for example, like if you're like a star basketball player or you're like a star football player, and your girl shoots a text and she's like, "Oh, where you been at?" Or, "Well, is practice really that long?" It's all the little things, right? The little things, and then on top of that, when you're dealing with your relationship, it can kind of set you back as far as to perform at your best, right? So basically what I'm gonna try to tell you today is when you're dealing with sports and relationships, right, you have to be honest. You have to be honest, and your significant other really has to understand that this is what you want to do, right? Because at the end game, right, the end game, you know, she's gonna appreciate the fact that she was able to give you space and or well, he or she. Stop saying she, only because like I've been in this situation before, right? That's why I keep saying she. But it can be he or she. Some recognition, but enough of that. Getting sidetracked. It's just relationships. Relationships as far as like a girlfriend or a boyfriend boyfriend, girlfriend. I don't know. But look, it's your significant other at the end of the day. It's your significant other dealing with sports, right? So with that being said, so when you're a top tier athlete, right, you're not gonna get a lot of um, like one-on-one time. It's just not gonna happen. It's just really how it goes, and your significant other really has to accept that. It's just where just like, because top tier athletes, like, they have routines. They got workouts in the morning, breakfast. They got certain runs that they have to do, certain practices, sometimes 2 a days. Depending on what sport you do. So meetings that you have to go to. You got study sessions that you have to go to. It's just like when you're an athlete, you don't just do the sport. There's a lot of other things that they have to do. So another thing, doing relationships is just like you're just not gonna get a lot of one-on-one time, especially when y'all both do sports. Because when y'all both do sports, it's just like the one-on-one time is limited. It's really limited. So that's another thing that you have to get used to as far as just be able to handle the space between y'all two when y'all both athletes. So that's another thing. The next topic we're gonna talk about is as far as not being afraid to lose your significant other only because when you're trying to become the best or to reach to the next level, right? You have to have an abundance mindset when you are an athlete or when you are doing a sport and doing a sport that you love to do, right? So you have to stay abundant, and there's plenty of people out there. Sometimes high school, when you see somebody and you just want that companionship. In high school, everybody got a girlfriend. You the only one. Everybody got a girlfriend or a boyfriend, right? And you the only one that's single, and they like, oh well, where's your man? So for like, high school is just like, you don't want to be a sore thumb. You don't want to stand out. You don't want to be an outlier in high school, right? Especially high school, middle school, college, not so much, because college is just free for all. It's just whatever, right? But like when it comes to like high school and middle school, it's just like, well, they just want that one-on-one. They find somebody that they think that they like them. They look at them, once or twice, and they next thing you know, they in a relationship. Standing at the locker and all that cute stuff, right? They kiss before class. They just want that attention, right? So that's high school, man. But truth be told, though, I mean, there's high school sweethearts. There's people that have been with their significant other all throughout high school, and they got 8 fucking kids. It's they really love each other, right? So, but when it comes to like when you surpass it, like the pro level, it's a whole different ball game. There's times where you have pro athletes to where like it's almost like deployment. It's like they don't see their significant other for months, because like they travel and so forth and so on, especially like Olympians, like they travel and they're there for like a long period of time, So when like you're a pro athlete, it's a little different, the pro athletes are more abundant than like the regular athletes, right? So that's definitely the main thing as far as differentiating between like a pro athlete than like a regular athlete. A pro athlete they're more in abundance and they're more able to move on only because it's just like that's really their passion. They're getting paid to do the sport that they love to do. Versus like a regular athlete, there's other things that I got to worry about, like grades and you know grades and making sure they don't get in trouble in school and so forth and so on. There's other different things. I mean, even as a pro athlete too, but mainly like grades, go to school, make sure you go to schoolwork, good grades, getting to class on time, so there's other different things that they have to worry about. Just more responsibilities when you're a regular athlete than like a pro athlete, because pro athletes, like, you got sponsorships, you got people that are able to like take care of you, make sure you're good, so it's a little different. So the next topic is oh yeah, the Me Too movement. The Me Too movement. So this is when it comes to like the pro athletes, right? When you're like doing relationships, right? Sometimes certain athletes aren't able to cope with relationships. Sometimes they lose themselves, right? For example, like Zach Stacy, right? I'm not sure if you know about the Zach Stacy story, right? So sometimes being a pro athlete can be a little bit stressful, especially like paparazzi, certain things like the spotlight. Certain athletes are not used to the spotlight. Certain rookies, they're not used to that. They splurge and spend their money on certain things, and then sometimes finances can really like hinder and jeopardize your relationship, right? So, but the Zach Stacy story, right? So Zach Stacy, he had a lot going on. I mean, he was black, and his wife was white. I think it was his wife, but his significant other was white, right? So I don't know what words were exchanged though, but if you look in the video, it's like he just goes on a rant. He just goes crazy. I mean, he slams into the TV and he slams her on the wall, and he just goes bizarre, right? I mean, just belligerent, right? So it's that just being an athlete, just be able to control your emotions, because sometimes that pressure, especially like when you're on a team or just like the sport in general, like practice, or just having like a long day, so in like the facility or whatever, right? Or maybe like you're just sore and you're feeling groggy, or you had a bad day of practice, so, or you just have like that one teammate that really got on your nerves, and then you come home and then you kind of transfer that energy over to your family or your significant other, and you just go belligerent, and sometimes they don't deserve that, so yeah. But yeah, so that's what happened. And well, this topic's not really about like the Me Too movement though, but usually athletes are kind of in the system when it comes to the Me Too movement, right? Sometimes there's these women out here, right? They usually go after, or they create rumors for, like, for instance, like Tom Brady, like the whole scandal, right? There was rumors that I think he had like an escort, or he had like somebody he was messing with, though, right? But it came to find out it wasn't true, right? Especially like these GOATs, or like these real good athletes, where they, they say this, that, and the third, creating rumors and so on, right? So basically, what I'm trying to say is that a lot of these like star athletes and these professional, like these GOATs out here, a lot of them, there's a lot of rumors that are spread only because, like, for money's sake, um, to get money out of them, or to just get like attention, to get like a spotlight, just to come out there and just to get attention from like these athletes out here, So it's sad, but it's been going on for years, So I mean, years, like look at Mike Tyson, look at Kobe Bryant, look at oh my goodness, who Kobe Bryant, Mike Tyson, Floyd Mayweather. And if you notice, like, a lot of these athletes are black. A lot of these athletes are black, you know. So I mean, you don't fucking hear Babe Ruth. He not part of the Me Too movement. You don't Joe DiMaggio. You don't hear nothing about him having part of him. I mean, he didn't mess with Marilyn Monroe, but yeah, you don't. No, it's been this Me Too movement been going on for years, long period of time. So that's with sports. So um, it's been going on for quite a while, and then there has been like some other athletes, but they don't really like broadcast it compared to like the known ones. Like Kobe Bryant with his rape case. You know, I mean, he was an athlete though, but it was kind of a different scenario. Like O.J. Simpson. Don't in case if y'all didn't know, yes, he did play football and he was great. Matter of fact, I think he still has the record for the most rushing yards in one game. I think he still has that. He definitely still has that. But yeah, he's part of it too. But like, did he do it, or did he? It's like, but yeah, he was an athlete though, so he can be part of that category, honestly. So, but yeah, definitely the Me Too movement. It's definitely kind of it's profiled, and it's like we're kind of into the system when it comes to like the Me Too movement. It's mostly black athletes. So that's another thing. When you're in a relationship and you're a black athlete, as far as black athletes, that's really basically when it comes to athleticism, it's in our roots. It's just really how it goes, So that's like our avenue, because we have like that inner beast in us, and we just really like strive to become the best. It really, and it's proven, So yes, so athletes are heavy into the system. Basically, just to revert back as far as to like the Me Too movement, right? Yes, we are heavily into the system, only because that, well, most good athletes are black. Most athletes that we know, and have broken records are mostly black. I mean, you have Usain Bolt. I mean, you have Jordan. You have Jim Brown. You have it's definitely in the track and field world. A lot of those athletes are mostly black. So we have broken like a significant amount of records, and I mean, coming from like Jamaicans to Americans to Britons to all of them. So that's that. They definitely watch us very carefully, only because of how we're able to like excel and become the best in whatever sport that we do. So it's just like we're on eggshells. That's why when you're in a relationship and you're just to be like a black athlete, just in general, every little thing you do, you really have to be careful. You really have to be careful, especially like when you're like mediocre or you're like actually pretty good. Yeah. They it's either, they're gonna listen to what you're gonna say, but 9 times out of 10, they're they're here to like break you down. They're here to break black athletes at that down, only because they know what we're capable of doing. And it's the truth. Athletes can have families too. Athletes can definitely have families. They can definitely damn, at 13 minutes. Athletes can have families too. And that's actually more pressure on them, only because like, you know, they're not really able to see their kids, only because like that's whatever sport they do, that's what they have to do. I mean, every day they gotta get to practice. They gotta be able to eat breakfast at a certain time. It's just a lot of other things that they really gotta pay attention. They really gotta do when it's mandatory. It's not to where it's like, nah, I don't feel like going to practice today. Like, no, 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 no. It ain't high school. It ain't middle school. There's a difference when you're a pro athlete. It's there's some precautions. If you as a pro athlete, don't show up to practice only because you're getting paid. You're getting paid compared to like a middle school or high school athlete. Especially when you have a family, where there's certain things that have to be taken care of, and has to be done when you have a family and you're a pro athlete. So yeah, they can definitely have families, and you can definitely be successful and have a family as an athlete. You can definitely be the best, and you can definitely be a GOAT, because there's a lot of greats that have had families and they were still able to maintain and become the best of the best, honestly. So yes, you can definitely have a family and still have a healthy relationship with your kids and your family as well, to actually like just to be great. So, but yeah, so just to wrap things up, when it comes to like relationships and being an athlete, so there's definitely going to be some things that's going to happen, as far as being able to just have that abundance mindset, and dealing with like certain space, because there's certain things that are mandatory, and that's only if you're really truthful and you're really serious about the sport that you do. If you really have the passion. So there's definitely going to be some hiccups in a relationship, to where it's just like, okay, well, you may not see them for a certain period of time, or it's just like, okay, well, we can't go out, we can't do this, we can't do that, only because if you really want to take it seriously, you know and that's kind of more for the like the pro athletes and the college athletes. That's it pertains more to the higher class people who do sports, compared to like middle school and high school. Not really more such high school, because when you get to like the collegiate level, that's like your next step to becoming pro. And you're on a scholarship too, especially when you're on a scholarship. you know because that's, they're able to put the money on the table, and you have to show them what you're really about, when you're a colleague. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. But yeah, so people, you just have to be more abundant and be able to move on, when you're in the pro levels, or you're in the college level. So that's where it starts to become serious. High school, you take it serious, but colleagues, that's where it begins. That's where you start to really take it seriously, if you really want to like find your passion, and to trying to discover, trying to navigate, and trying to figure out if this is what you love to do. So, but yeah, this is A Brown Advice once again. Another day, another advice. Definitely stay tuned for more with my consistency, and just be able to just express my ideas, and just to give you advice. Just to let you know, as far as the psychology of sports, the psychology of running, the psychology of staying in shape. Just to be able to like maintain. There's definitely several things I can talk about. I can talk about it all day. But yes, but that's it. Coping with stress and health. We talk about that too. But yeah, much things to talk about though. But just to wrap things up, you just have to be very, very abundant and be able to move on. Yeah, when it comes to sports. But yes, all relationships, they can break you or make you. So you just gotta think before you act, especially when you're in a relationship. But yeah. We up. All right, I get it with you.